Well, I had a whole series of juvenile entrepreneurial ventures. One of the big ones was railroad ties. That was a great business. They were tearing out a rail line outside of town. We'd drive out there and pick up railroad ties and sell them for landscape purposes. Now, interesting enough, after those college businesses, I didn't go into entrepreneurship. I went straight into the corporate world and was very frustrated. I was going to quit because I really wanted to do something entrepreneurial that could control my own destiny. So I did go to my boss and told him about it. It was, took a while to get the nerve up to do that, and I was thinking maybe I need to leave. And he said, no, don't leave. I really need you here. Tell you what, anything over 60 hours is yours. What that did was give me permission to start to develop my own business while I was working. The corporate world was great. I learned a lot. They trained me, and as I would counsel entrepreneurs today, put down a deep subject matter expertise in something. It can be engineering related, computer science, it could be business, it could be finance, whatever it is. You have a deep subject matter expertise, and from that you're able to draw and find pains or opportunities which you might be able to exploit. So I think that's an important thing, to be able to have this deep subject matter expertise. Mine happened to be finance. And my first business was a leasing business. So it was a financial business. I was able to go out and we were leasing equipment. But I was still had my day job during most of that. I hired some people, put them in an office across town, so it was arm's length, and continued that out until later in my career, and really was after the internet business came along. It's an accident. High-speed access is a total accident. If you want to go back to where the butterfly first flapped, it was a misdirected phone call. I called a company, and I can't even remember exactly what I called about, and this guy answered the phone and talked for a little bit, and then it was kind of a recognizable voice, and it was a guy who was in my Sunday school class for a while. So, but not somebody I knew well. And so we chatted for a while. What are you up to? And he said, well, I'm working on this project because I think cable modems are going to go somewhere. I go, what is a cable modem? And he goes, well, and so we talked for a little while. I said, do you got a business plan or something? And he did. I became intrigued with that. The internet was just taking off. Broadband was just starting to become a reality. I'd seen my first demonstration of broadband fairly shortly before that, and we take it for granted today. But it didn't exist. It was all dial-up and 64 baud modems. It was a different era. So we started up this business, which went through a bunch of machinations, and it was going to be a metropolitan area network. Then it was going to be a cable overlay company. Then it became a cable modem company. We didn't want to own the cable systems themselves. We didn't have the money to do that. So we started some installations, and then we went to Chrysalis Ventures, which was just starting in Louisville. So Chrysalis put in a total of $2 million, and we went to town. And we were in the right place at the right time. I mean, it was the right industry. So it didn't take very long before some other entities took notice. We started going into Marcus Cable and Charter Communications and lots of other small cable companies that would have us and start to work. At the same time, there was a guy out in the West Coast named Paul Allen, famous name, obviously Microsoft co-founder, and he was starting up the wired world. And that was his vision for this wired world. And part of his vision was the last mile delivery systems. And then he had all the content pieces too. And in his mind, it was going to be cable. So in the end, he starts investing in our company. Well, that was obviously a really good housekeeping seal of approval. For that, we were able to gather other money, and this is all happening very, very fast. I remember being out in Colorado, and we were actually on vacation at a dude ranch, and my friend goes, your stock's going crazy in your company. I go, what are you talking about? We had no connectivity out there. But apparently he did, and at that point the company was worth more than Brown-Forman, more than Humana, more than Ashland Oil. It was crazy. It was crazy. I think it got close to $4 billion worth of market cap on it. But that was the era, and quite honestly, in retrospect, it did work out. The numbers are real. What happened was that the internet crashed, the bubble burst, And that delayed, I think, the realization of the rollout of broadband by several years. Good news about HSA was it never bankrupted. So we came down a lot, but we then eventually sold our business to Charter Communications, to Paul Allen, who bought the business. A lot of the investors got out. There are parks that are built in Louisville that are funded with that money, and schools that have been built with it. And Charter still has, and we cut the ribbon on an ops center, which Charter still operates, or now it's called Spectrum, in Louisville, that has at least 1,500 jobs in it. So that's continued from that. So there's a great legacy that's happened with that company, though unfortunately, the crash happened, and we were both a beneficiary of the bubble and a victim. I would tell you though that I'm far more proud of business success that's outside of the business functionality. So the question of how do you know when you've arrived, and what do you feel good about when when you're laying on your deathbed? What are you going to be proud of from doing this entrepreneurial thing? And a lot of that's philanthropic. We had always been big supporters of United Way, had a great United Way mentor. And we went to a United Way function, and they had said that nobody had ever given $1 million to United Way in the history of the Louisville United Way. My wife, I drove home and said, wouldn't it be cool to do that? I mean, that kind of inspirational. And said, yeah, let's do that, we can do that. And I remember sitting there with the guy who's the head of United Way at Jack Fry's for lunch. We're going to take you to lunch, and he didn't know what it was about. And I said, Rob, got something for you. He said, oh, okay, what? He said, we want to give you $1 million. But that's not all. What I really want to do is give you this $1 million, but we want to leverage it up to at least $5 million by going out and getting other people to join us in a challenge. And went to some of our co-founders within the internet business and sat down with them and explained what I was doing and asked them for $1 million. So we put together this $5 million pod, which we then turned around into a challenge grant for new business. We were able from that gift to raise well over $25 million in new money for United Way. And for me, I thought, wow, that is really cool that you can do something in the community that affects people's lives in a big way. And that certainly applies today. The fact that I can run the Chamber of Commerce, and our mission is all around job creation. And the reason why I get, my motivation for doing this work is because through business you can create jobs, through jobs you create sustainable people. And if somebody has a job, that's the best form of philanthropy. They can take care of themselves, send the kids to school. I mean, that's the motivation for this. Every day you get to do something that helps somebody else, and that in the end is what you're going to remember. I mean, the businesses are nice, and we got lots of trophies, and can drive a nice car, but that's what's going to matter.